TravelTroll.
Hello, my adventure in New Zealand is over. So I am now in Melbourne, Australia, and let me tell you a little bit about South Island of New Zealand. As I mentioned in the last video, the North and South Islands of New Zealand are majorly different. If you haven't seen the North Island video, you can check it out over here. Most of the tourist advice is valid for the South Island as well, like buying a car instead of renting it. But even though the approach to life is pretty much the same on the North and South Islands, there is a couple of major differences that are very obvious. First of all, the predominant geographical features of the North Island are of volcanic origin, which is why there are so many volcano-related activities and places, like hiking on volcanoes or smelly pits, geysers, hot springs, and similar things. While the South Island is mostly made up of young mountains that are still growing rapidly in geological speeds due to tectonic plate movements. So the entire South Island looks very different from the North one. The very south end of the South Island has the additional privilege of being one of the rare spots on the planet that has fjords. So the southwestern part of the South Island is called Fjordland. It's a national park filled with fjords. The two islands have also a greatly different climate. There is a couple of reasons for that. First of all, the distance from the northernmost point of New Zealand to the southernmost is almost 2,000 kilometers, which is more than from Venice, Italy to Oslo, Norway, or New York City to Miami, Florida. As you can imagine, that alone contributes to a majorly different climate. Second, the ocean currents. While the North Island gets warmed up by the hot East Australian current from the equatorial Pacific Ocean, the South Island gets mostly influenced by freezing Antarctic circumpolar currents. This results in a lot more rain where the two ocean currents meet, which happens mostly on the west coast of South Island of New Zealand. It's a lot of wind and a lot of rain that happens there every year. My first destination on the South Island of New Zealand was Queenstown. It is a self-proclaimed adrenaline capital of the Southern Hemisphere. It is a small town on a crystal clear lake surrounded by mountains. It originally grew from the world's second largest gold rush ever, but now since the gold has been mined out and taken away, it converted more and more to tourism. Now its main focus are hotels, hostels, apartments, bars, pubs, clubs, below zero ice bars, ice skating, restaurants, adventures, tourist offices, tour organizers, ski resorts, ski shuttles, and anything to do with tourism basically. There you can go on many activities, some of them free, some of them paid. If you go for a hike, you can start in the city center and within 3 minutes you'd already be hiking up a mountain. That's how close to nature it is. If you're looking for a spot to spend your money, there are speedboats, jet skis, zip lines, skiing, ice skating, cartilage, mountain biking, bungee jumping, helicopter rides, paragliding, skydiving. There's everything there in Queenstown. I highly recommend the place, regardless of your budget or extra activities that you plan to do, because just hiking the first two mountains around Queenstown is already worth the visit. It's a very fun place, always alive, especially in winter. My next destination was Tianau. It's a small village of a town that is mostly used for a starting point for Milford Sound trips, which is the most touristically famous part of Fjordland. It's easily accessible with a car or bus, so most people just do that instead of hiking through it for several days. If you are up for a multi-day hike, you should definitely do one in Fjordland. If you're more the car travel person, Milford Sound is a good spot to go for a ride and a boat ride as well. Near Ternau there are some glowworm caves which are famous on the North Island of New Zealand. Here are some of them as well, but there is still the same rules as in all glowworm caves, which is no photography. So I'm very sorry to say that I have no photos from there and I cannot show you what it looks like, but it is an experience worth going through. The biggest disappointment on the South Island for me were the big cities. A good example of such a disappointment is Invercargill. It is a very wide city, not big or tall, just wide. You basically need a car to get to anywhere, even within the city. Invercargill specifically is a ghost town of a place. At least during winter it was. Maybe it changes for summer, but all the shops were closed and most places were boarded up. It didn't really seem like a place to spend more than a day at. The only thing that I found it useful for was for trips to the Stewart Island. It takes a while to get to Stewart Island. The simplest and cheapest way is via ferry. That ferry rides over the Antarctic Ocean, so it is a bumpy ride. Stewart Island is a nature reserve. Of the 380 people that live on the entire island, 350 are in the only town on the island, Oban. It's a place to go hiking in, and it's the single point with highest chance of seeing wild kiwis in New Zealand. I wasn't personally so lucky, but there has been plenty of people who have seen kiwis and they live within the city limits. But what I did get to see is some of the most mind-blowing views of a starry sky in my life. Since you are basically 200 kilometers away from any light pollution, that little place in Stewart Island is one of the best places to see the stars and the starry sky. All you need is a cloudless night. Dunedin is a nice city, but in the style of South Island cities, rather flat, wide and not really exciting, as I already mentioned. Right beside Dunedin, however, is Harrington Point, a peninsula well known for its wildlife. I definitely recommend a guided tour across it. To get to see the rare wildlife is a humbling experience and a great opportunity to see endangered species that are shy and rarely close to humans. For example, the royal albatross, which is the largest of all seabirds, capable of doing 7,000 kilometer trips without ever landing on any land in the freezing Antarctic Ocean, or sea lions and seals, and two types of penguins. Yellow-eyed penguins who surprisingly live on the mountainside in the forest, and I also saw a little blue penguin who was just hiding in his burrow, so I didn't get to see his entire cuteness. Next on my list was Christchurch, further up north on the east coast of the South Island. Christchurch is the largest city on the South Island of New Zealand. It got hit by several big earthquakes in recent years, and you can still see some remnants of the destruction on the entire city. Same as the other cities I already mentioned, it is just a starting point for trips into the nature. An hour ride away from Christchurch is Akaroa, a nice set of hiking mountains around Akaroa. Otherwise, the entire area is skippable if you're just in for a visit. To get from one coast of New Zealand to the other, east to west or west to east, you have to cross the already mentioned mountain chain. There are not many roads across that mountain chain, and there is exactly 3 passes to get across it. During winter they're often snowed in, so not even all of the 3 passes are available at once. One of such passes is Arthur's Pass. It is marked by a small village that has literally one place that is called a gas station, shop, bar, pub, restaurant, and a set of houses around it. But it is a gorgeous ride through, even if you don't stop for any hikes or anything else. It is just a beautiful place to see. On the west coast of New Zealand, there is Greymouth, the biggest city on that side of the coast. Originally grown for jade and gold mining, and now it's a smaller city with a lot of tourism focus. Around it are the Fox and Franz Josef glaciers and various hiking trails, and the very well known Pancake Rocks and blowholes. These blowholes are a great example of nature's imagination. It's a set of rocky cliffs that have a lot of holes in them, so when the sea and the wind hit them, the sea is being pushed out through some various tunnels, so it looks like the rocks are spitting the ocean back out. For my trip back to the east coast, the passes were snowed in, so we had to drive around the entire mountain chain. So in total, I've made it to most of the places I wanted to see in the South Island of New Zealand. And again, it's a place where a month is easy to spend without getting bored. I'm honestly considering going back to New Zealand during summer just to see what other amazing places hide in this country in other seasons. Because winter itself was one type of experience, but I'm sure that the entire country looks different during summer. That is all about New Zealand, and the next video will be all about Australia.